My name is Ike Anya. I'm a Nigerian medical doctor and writer. I'm from Agrabah. And I'll be talking about Obu, which are the traditional meeting houses in Abiriba Society. And I'll be looking at them as a home of art, justice, lawmaking, and spirituality.
Hello, can you give him the speaker?
Sorry, my name is Ike Anya. I'm a Nigerian doctor and writer. I'm from Agrabah, and I'll be talking about Obu, the traditional meeting houses of the Abiriba community, and how those are the home of art, justice, lawmaking, and spirituality in Abiriba Society. So this is a map of Igbo land, and Agrabah is to the Agrabah is to the south, to the east of Igbo land, towards Cross River, and so often is part of the group of Igbos that are referred to as the Cross River Igbo for that reason. So as a child, I was lucky enough to be taken frequently to my ancestral hometown, Abiriba, by my parents, and when we were getting to Agrabah, one of the first things, which till today is still quite a signal to me of being home, is the Okwachi, the ancient achi tree, which sits in the center of Agrabah. It's been there for allegedly hundreds of years, and the sense is that if anything happened to it, tragedy will befall the country. But so the drive past the achi tree to my maternal grandfather's house in Omaozo. And this is a view from my maternal grandfather's veranda, where it was right on the central street, and we could see everything that was going on, and people would walk past. So in a way, it was also like an Obu, even though it was not a formal Obu in that sense. And that also is another scene from my grandfather's veranda. This is during the Iguamang festival, and you can see the elaborate costumes that the celebrants wear. And I'll be talking about how the role that these costumes are linked, how they are linked to the Obus. And this is a picture. The man in the red arrow is actually my grandfather with the red arrow. This is him with a group of Abiriba businessmen in about 1950. They were among the founders of the Abiriba Communal Improvement Union, and it was from his veranda that I used to sit and watch a lot of the things. And when we would go past my grandfather's house, we would then go on to Ndana, which is an ancestral compound where we came from. And my father made sure we went there very often. And this is the sort of scene. Ndana was a Ezi, and that was where I first came in contact with an Obu, because every Ezi has its Obu. And sometimes we would go around greeting the many uncles that I had. My grandfather had 7 wives, my great-grandfather had 7 wives, and as a result, I had lots of uncles who, we would go around, greet. They would often pour libation to welcome us back, breaking kola nut. And so through that, occasionally we would then go into the Obu, which was to the side of the compound itself. And that is where we would hold family meetings, only of the men who had performed the Ibanunu ceremony, which you do when you're about 8 years old, which is actually you shoot your first bird, and you take that back to your Ezi, and it's roasted, and you eat the head. And that is when, if you like, that's the first recognition of you as an individual, a male individual within Abiriba Society, because that is then when whenever there's a meeting called in the Obu, you will be able to attend. And during the Ibanunu ceremony, the person who's shot the bird, the young boy, goes around with his friends with a bow and arrow and the bird that he has shot tied to the arrow around the town, receiving presents from relatives. And that's an opportunity for you to learn who your relatives are and where they are, because you will go to all their homes, and then you come back to the family compound where the roasting happens. And all the presents you've received, yam, money, along the way, will be brought back to the Obu, and it will be shared out, some to the celebrant himself, and then the rest for all the people who have completed the Banuno. And so that's the sort of thing that would happen in the Obu. The other thing that I remember happening in our Obu was when we would, okay, 5 minutes, right, was when we would, so someone to celebrate might kill a goat. A member of the kindred might decide, I'm going to kill a goat just to celebrate, to show this year has been good for me. And that goat would be cooked by the men of the family with yam pottage, usually in the morning. So we'd get up and go and visit and do that. Abiriba has a very long history. This is just a genealogy of the kings of Abiriba going back to 1494 to the present day. And when you think of the Obu, you can think of the Obu as a physical house, like we had in my compound. You can think of it at a family kindred level, as we had in Ndana. But you also have communal Obu, so at the village level. You also have the, like Obunde Chukwu, and I'll show pictures of that. And you also have Obus that belong to certain societies, Obu Ekpe. So the Ekpe society have the Obu where they keep their artifacts and where they keep some of those elaborate costumes I talked about earlier. So for instance, this is Abiriba Umon. This is a guild. Sorry, going back, there's also Obu as metaphor. So not a physical house, but so the eldest Abiriba person in London now, their house is the Obu Abiriba in London. And that is the same for anywhere in the world. And that means that's where the community gather for meetings, that's where people go if there's a problem, and if people need sanctuary, they will get it there. And then you have the Obu of the trade guild. So we have two trade guilds, the Inimoka trade guild and the Omon, depending on whether you were a riverine trader or an upland trader. So that goes back to historical Abiriba. So this is the Abiriba Omon guild boat and the elaborate costumes, which are all stored in the society. Then you think of there's the Obu Itweye, which is the central Obu in the center of Agrabah, which is used for legislation. So every year, at the Iriana festival, which is the beginning of the new year, the Enachoken appears at the Obu Itweye with the kings of the, so Agrabah is a constitutional monarchy that has three villages with three kings. The Enachoken is sort of first among equals. He has the head of Anwogudu and head of Eboji, who are also his equals, but he is the paramount ruler. But all three have to come together for any ruling to be valid. And they hold pieces of the Otisi, the wooden carving that the original founder of Abiriba had. And when he had three sons, he divided it and gave them each a piece. And no legislation is valid unless all three are together. And so this is the Iriana festival. That's the current Menachoken with his co-chiefs in front of the Obu Itweye at the Itweye festival. He's holding palm fronds. What happens is they decide what the new rules, so it's a bit like the Queen's speech in Parliament, what the new rules for the year, depending on what's happening, is. And as he makes each declaration, he throws out a palm frond. And the age grade that is the Ukeji Abala, which is the age grade preparing for the 4 years to retirement, they are the custodians of society. So the leader of the age grade will pick up each of those palm fronds, and that's sort of staking it on that this is a rule. And it will be something that is related to contemporary happenings. So at the last Itweye in 2018, for instance, in July, there was an edict against marijuana selling, marijuana traders and the punishment that would come to them. And that's the king going. Then there's Obu as a spiritual home and the home of art, which is something I wasn't really familiar with until I started 4 or 5 years ago looking online, and I discovered, I think I was just Googling Abiriba online just to see what came up. And then I discovered that there were these highly prized artworks and also these photographs from G.I. Jones, who was an ethnographer who worked as a district officer in Igbo land for many years. So this is a picture of an Obu by G.I. Jones in the 1930s. And interestingly for me, in front, those are not goats, those are cows, but they are the traditional Igbo cows, Igbo, which are smaller in size and are very prized. So obviously in the 1930s, that was what was common before we started having other kinds. So these are some of the artwork within the Obu. That's another Obu from 1930s. That's a custodian of the Obu sitting in front of some of the figures. You can see the palm fronds, which always has spiritual significance. And you know, that's a beautifully carved, that's just a food bowl. A young boy with a food bowl from the 1930s. I had no idea that things like that were produced, even though I was very steeped within our tradition and culture. More pictures from G.I. Jones. And then this is, you know, this again was from an auction website describing one of the prizes. Then, sort of in contemporary Abiriba Society, this is what some of the Obus look like. On the left is Obu Umuechuku, which it belongs to the Umuechuku, which is one of the villages in Angmeke, and the Obuekpe Eboji. So the Ekpe Society within Eboji village, that's their Obu. And then this is in the Smithsonian National Museum of African Art collection. It's an Igbo male figure, and this is a female figure from the Met Museum. This was donated by the Walt Disney Company, apparently, to the Smithsonian Museum of African Art. And this female figure has traveled all over the world in exhibitions. She's probably been to more countries than I have, and I wonder who she was from the 19th century originally. And in closing, these are some of the contemporary pictures about the Obu. And this I saw on an auction, one of the Obu things selling for nearly 25,000 euros now. And none of them really exist in Agrabah now. Many were lost during the war. In fact, some of them, if you look at the provenance where they are being sold, there are people who were probably mercenaries who fought in the World War, because a lot of them were French, took them with them. So I'd like to acknowledge the various sites, and I would like to, for those who happen to be in Nigeria or maybe push forward this exhibition that's being held in June in Abuja and Lagos. And Philip Sakwari's, a number of the photographs I've shown of contemporary come from him, and he's a very good documenter of contemporary Abiriba culture. So thank you very much. Sorry I had to rush through it.